If you were able to drop into Berlin in the mid-1930s, the first thing that would have hit you was not the jackboots, it was the ordinariness. People are out, shops are open, cafe tables are full, couples walk, children play, workers commute, friends meet for a drink. Cities still chase pleasure, music, theatre, sport, gossip, flirting, routine. Even parts of Germany's entertainment culture, including jazz, carried on in complicated, compromised forms for a time, sometimes tolerated, sometimes repackaged, sometimes pushed to the margins. And from the outside looking in, it can almost look comfortingly normal. That is the uncomfortable lesson. Normal life does not stop just because the society is sliding. Normal life is often what lets the slide happen, quietly. You can have full restaurants and busy streets while legal and moral foundations are being pulled apart behind the scenes. Because while Germans were living their lives, the Nazi state was being built at speed. There was a name for that construction process. In English, it means the bringing into line of political, social and cultural life to serve Nazi goals. The Enabling Act then put a legal engine under the takeover, allowing the government to issue laws without parliamentary consent, which is how a dictatorship can dress itself up as procedure. And the regime worked relentlessly on the next generation through youth indoctrination and mobilisation, not as a side project, but as a core strategy. And then let's pivot to America in the 2020s. America also looks normal. People go to work, grumble about the economy, go to the cinema, watch sport, go bowling, have barbecues, stream TV, argue online, make plans for the weekend. You can drive through a suburb on a Sunday afternoon and think, this place is fine. And that is exactly where the historical lens matters. Because the question historians will ask later is not, did daily life continue? It almost always does. The question is, what was happening to the guardrails while daily life continued? This is where we have to be careful with tone. This is not a cheap anti-American piece. America has deep strengths, and it has millions of decent people who refuse the politics of cruelty, who protest, organise, vote, report, whistleblow, literally as well as metaphorically, teach, serve, and try to hold the line. The point is not to sneer at America, it is to respect it enough to take the warning signs seriously. And one of the warning signs is the slow corrosion of the shared reality and democratic legitimacy. When political leaders treat courts, elections, civil servants and independent media as valid only when they produce the right outcome, democracy has become conditional. That is not just a style problem, it is a structural one. Another warning sign is the flirtation with political intimidation, whether it's direct or implied. When Trump told the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by, it was not just a line, it was a signal heard by the very people a democracy should be isolating, not energising. Then there is foreign policy, where the language of power often reveals what domestic politics is becoming. Hitler made expansionism central to his worldview, and the world learned too late that declared intent and just rhetoric are not safely separable. Hitler meant it. He even wrote it in Mein Kampf. Trumpism does not come with a single manifesto. It does not come with a posture. If a leader repeatedly speaks in the idiom of acquiring territory, like Greenland, and normalizes a world where sovereignty is treated as negotiable by the strong, if a leader treats international law and humanitarian restraint as disposable, it teaches everyone else to do the same. On Gaza, for example, whatever your politics, it matters that the International Court of Justice found that at least some of the rights asserted by South Africa under the Genocide Convention were plausible and ordered provisional measures because that is what the international system, trying, however imperfectly, to enforce limits. And on Venezuela, the precedent of recognising an alternative head of state and escalating a coercive pressure shows how easily rules-based can become results-based, when great powers decide that the rules are optional. Now the part we cannot duck, the part that stops this becoming lazy. Trump equals Hitler clickbait. If you strip it down to one man, you miss the machinery. Hitler did not conjure up a dictatorship from thin air. He needed enablers, careerists, cowards, true believers, party organisers, businessmen, newspaper barons, judges, police officials, civil servants, and millions of ordinary people willing to look away because the train still ran and the cafes were still open. The legal steps mattered, but the social consent mattered even more. America has its own version of the dynamic. Trump is not the whole story. The story is also of the GOP apparatus that rationalizes, normalizes, and rewards behavior that would have been disqualifying in an earlier political culture. The story is of a wider MAGA movement and voters who treat politics as a team sport with no moral cost. And the story is as comfortable as a comfortable lie that he won't really do it. The same kind of complacency that has seduced societies before, including educated, civilized societies that believed themselves immune. So here's the question I want to leave hanging, because this is a four-lens piece, not a lecture. When historians look back at this period, will they say it was also obvious? Will they watch the footage of normal American life? The ball games, the cinema, the shopping centres, the everyday kindness, the everyday boredom, and then list the parallel signs that we chose to excuse at the time. And what makes you bristle good? Bristling can be a form of care. The goal here is not controversy for clicks. It is to ask whether we have confused normal life with healthy politics, and whether we are mistaking noise for stability. If you disagree, tell me where, specifically. If you tell me what you think the clearest early warning sign is and what ordinary people can do, then that is not performance, not tribal, and not just another post.